Thank you, Reverend Moses Garu, for the prayer. Now we have come to the important part of our service, and we are very fortunate to have, as informed earlier, Reverend Dr. Ajoy Kumar Lama from Guwahati. He is, as been introduced, he is a renowned Baptist speaker, not only in India, but all over the world. Sir, thank you very much for accepting and being with us. Over to you, sir. You can take the time with the Lord lead us.
Thank you, brother, very much for giving this opportunity. I hope you all can hear me clearly. Thank you, Reverend Summers, for giving me this opportunity. It's good to reconnect with some of our old friends, familiar faces, and good to meet some new friends through this new platform of social media called Zoom. You know, COVID-19, although it's brought some crisis, but it also has opened new avenues for us to explore the social media. And I have found, I'm sure you must have found, that it is a very effective and useful tools to connect with people. This year we conducted several webinars and we did not have to spend much money, but we were able to train on several classes for the pastors. And this morning we actually just conducted Hindi Kavita competitions, and the participants were from all over North India, and it went very well. So if we had done it in some hotels, we would have ended up paying lots of money, and we could conduct the entire thing without much expenses. So this has become in some way blessings to explore new avenues of ministries. COVID-19 pandemic crisis has brought us to a point of uncertainty in some sense about our safety and satisfaction. So the theme, the title of my sermon today is Where is Safety and Where is Satisfaction? Where is safety and where is satisfaction? There are many reasons why trials and suffering comes in our life. But at least one of the ways that God turns our trials a time of renewal, our trials into a time of recommitment, rededication, is by allowing us to do introspection, analysis of where we have gone wrong. What has gone wrong? God uses that opportunity to bring us back again. So that's why James says, that in fact, trials can strengthen your perseverance. So it can become a blessing. So that's why I'm asking this question, where is safety and satisfaction? Maybe this is a time for introspection for every child of God to ask these questions for ourselves. Can we be certain of a location, a place, a person who is completely free of coronavirus? Can we be fully satisfied of all the hygienic measures already taken? We cannot see this tiny microorganism with our naked eyes. No. We are told that there are possibilities that a person who may be perfectly healthy may actually be a silent carrier. We are told that no sanitizer or disinfecting spray may kill the virus. We are told that even a social distancing of more than 7 feet is, may not save us, protect us. It doesn't guarantee us 100% safety. We are told that the virus may go dormant for some time, but it may return back anytime. The media has already bombarded with so much of scary information of possibilities to emphasize the seriousness of this pandemic disease that it will take several decades for many to overcome the fear. The other day I went to purchase some of the things in the grocery, and the shopkeeper was saying, "Sir, I'm opening, but the volume of customers is still not yet same. Still very few people are coming for shopping." Many are already freaked out. On the business counter, people exchange money trying it on a long stick. People are scared of being close to any doctor or nurse. A few days ago, I was passing an ambulance, And involuntarily, I decided to stop breathing for a while in case the ambulance is carrying a corona-affected patient. We are living in a very frightening situations. We are in need of an assurance of safety and satisfaction. That's why the question is, where is our safety? Where is our, satisfaction? No amount of cleaning, sanitizing, or masking, or social distancing is going to remove the fear of death that is stuck in mind. In fact, more than COVID-19, there are more than one regions of threat to our life in this world. I have this chart, published once, Times of India, but this is the data of World Health Organization's top 10 global causes of death. And it claims 96 lakhs people die just because of cancer, 94 lakhs died because of heart disease, 58 lakhs because of heart stroke, 31 lakhs because of chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, 30 lakhs die because of lower respiratory infections, and 20 lakhs die because of Alzheimer's and other dementias. 16 lakhs die of diabetes mellitus, 15 lakhs with road injury, and 14 lakhs with diarrhea, and 13 lakhs with tuberculosis. So, unfortunately, if you are dying with other diseases, probably you are not in the news. You will be in news only if you die with coronavirus. We need, in some way, confidence of being safe. We need the confidence that we shall be satisfied with every safety arrangement that are provided. And how can that happen? I believe that it is possible only if we build our faith in God. And so perhaps it is a time to introspect our faith in God. Yes, it's good to sanitize our hands and social distance and put the mask, but the question still remains, where is our faith? Are we really safe? Bible defines faith is being sure of what we hope for and being certain of what we do not see. This faith is being seeing beyond our naked eyes we can see. So it's even more than electronic microscope. It sees beyond that even. Biblical faith is faith in the person of Jesus, the God of the Bible, and the Holy Spirit who has proven himself again and again. This faith is not a blind faith, but it is based on the testimonies and stories of men and women of God who have gone before us. And I'm saying all these things because this 6 months for me has been also a time of observing who is how much in how depth, how deep in their water. We wanted to send some of the staff for relief work, and we could see that who has how much faith in God, who were willing to go and be willing to take the risk, and who were not willing to take the risk. Out there are many non-Christian doctors, non-Christian nurses, non-Christian police officers. They are on duty on the daily, maybe because they are forced to, they are compelled to, because they have job. But for us as a Christians, we found that there are very few who are willingly going out to connect with people and willing to help. Today, I want to draw our attention to King David, who wrote Psalm 91. I think most of us, all of us as a Christians, we need to read Psalm 91 again and again. Psalm 91 is the second Psalm of book 4. As some of you know, the Psalter has 5 books. And the collection of Psalm in book 4 is also known as Royal Enthronement Psalm. A majority of the Psalm in this collection projects the Creator God as the royal king, a king who is better than human king, a king who is trustworthy, a king whose rule is stable and eternal. Now, the collection of book 4 is a collection of election that empowers the confidence of the devotees of Yahweh. It declares a new era of hope. Actually, book 1 to 3 is also sometimes grouped as a group of lamentations. Most of the time you will see psalmists asking question, why? Why, Lord, why? There are a lot of, lamentations in there. But as soon as you enter in book 4, there is a new era of hope, new era of thanksgiving and praise psalm. Most of the Hallel psalm you will find in book 4 and book 5. If you read in the context of Psalm 89, which is the psalm of rejection, one of the saddest, the darkest psalm in the entire Psalter out of 150 is Psalm 189. We read in Psalm 89, verse 38 to 30, and let me read out that for you from New International Version, from verse 38. But you have rejected, you have spurned, you have been very angry with your anointed one. You have renounced the covenant with your servant and have defiled his crown in the dust. It's a complaint. It's a lamentation. You have rejected. But in Psalms 90, which is the first psalm of book 4 and the only psalm written by Moses, Moses begins with an absolute confidence. It says, Lord, you have been our dwelling place throughout all generations. And the similar note you will see in Psalm 91. In fact, actually, Psalm 90 and 91, probably the same author, because Psalm 91 does not have any superscript. With the same superscript, it continues. And so Psalm 91 also begins with the same concept of dwelling. It says, he who dwells in the shelter of the Most High will rest in the shadow of the Almighty. So let me draw your attention to Psalm 91, the second psalm of book 4 of the Royal Enthronement Group Psalm. Most scholars agree that this psalm must have been written by King David himself. And the context of the psalm must have been the context described in 1 Chronicle chapter 21. Also, 2 Samuel chapter 24. So there are two passages which can be referred to. 1 Chronicle 21 and 2 Samuel 24. Because this psalm makes a reference to pandemic crisis, similar to ours, and so very relevant to our context. So let us look into 1 Chronicle 21 and 2 Samuel 24. The story is given in 1 Chronicle 21 and 2 Samuel 24 is the same story with a different perspective, different writers. It is important to read both. We learn from the story that King David called for a census. In the ancient world, the king would call for a census primarily for 3 reasons. Number 1, to assess the amount of tax and revenue that can be collected. You already have experience how much of emphasis is on the tax for last 5 years in our country. Tax, tax, tax in every form. Government needs your tax and my tax. To assess the amount of tax and revenue that can be collected, money is very powerful. And if you have money, you can do everything. That's what we believe. Number 2, to assess the labor power of the nation to initiate any huge construction, work or agricultural project. Like Pharaoh, if he wanted to build those pyramids, he needed all the slaves, the Hebrews. He needed to have a statistic. So also the King David needed to know how much human power is available. We need to know how much human being is available. Any party want to know how many people are supporting me. So that's why, politics goes to even the college and university institution. You can recruit as many young people so that they can support you. Human power, the more the greater and the easier to win the election. So also easier to execute any project. Such is also the case, There are 3 things that we Baptists, we love to have. One is attendance in the church. How many attenders? The greater the number. Number 2 is building. The more the building, the bigger the building. C is the currency, the more the money. So our focus is ABC. So he's also, King David had the focus on human attendants, how many people? Number 3, to assess the human power and military strength over other nations. Now, if you have money, if you have a human power, that is a military strength that you have to defeat and rule the world. King David wanted to assess his military strength for his plan to win the war against his enemies. King David was guilty of shifting his trust from the Lord to the human beings. He had forgotten the time that he spent as a shepherd fighting the lions and then fighting the Goliath. Somewhere he forgot along the line as he continued to enjoy the throne as a king. He failed to realize, he forgot his past. Certainly there is a place for human assessment, applying practical strategy. There is nothing wrong. Having the number and statistic does help. But the problem here was that King David shifted his trust from God to the numbers, to the human strength, to human intelligence and human planning. We can become sometime overconfident of success through human strategies. And we Baptists, many a time we are guilty of that. Whether it is winning election or passing a bill, GST bill, or the parliament method to solve the problem. If you have the majority, you can pass the bill like hundreds of bills in just one session. Executing a law suddenly in the late evening or even a midnight, declare immediately lockdown, and that migrant worker does not have a space to breathe in and breathe out. They are caught with surprise. We can be sure of our success, but only to realize later that it was not worth the effort, worth the investment, worth the suffering of the common people as they stood before the ATM machine during demonetizations. Was it worth? Was it worth? Such absolute confidence in human strategies are seen even in the missionary agencies, and they have fallen apart. I can name many of the organizations in front of you, but I don't know. I will be the black sheep and I perhaps unwanted person if I start pointing out where some of the Christian agencies have gone wrong. This is exactly what happened. And so the Lord was angry and David deserved to be punished. The Lord gave him 3 options of punishment. Number 1, he says, okay, you have options. Number 1, 3 years of famine in the land. Second, 3 months of fleeing from the enemies. Third, 3 days of pandemic plague in the land. David did not desire to be at the mercies of his enemy. He wanted to be at the mercies of the Lord. Yes, he did mistake, but he made a good choice. God may help us as we do introspection in our life. We might have done great mistake in the past, but if we make a right choice, even today, God can turn our trials into a wonderful renewal, a wonderful new era. David finally came to senses and made a better choice. And so instead of sending 3 years of famine, the Lord just sent only 3 days of pandemic plague in the land. And we know the story, how the Lord had mercy on David as he confessed his sins and pleaded for mercy. And then he also built an altar at his personal expense, not from the royal treasury, because the sin was his personal sin. And then he worshiped the Lord. We read in 2 Samuel chapter 24, verse 25, David built an altar to the Lord there and sacrificed burnt offerings and fellowship offerings. Then the Lord answered his prayer in behalf of the land, and the plague on Israel was stopped. I only hope and pray the leaders of the nations, the leaders of the churches, and the leaders of our Christian organization make a similar introspection, similar time of analysis. And perhaps we all need to have confession. Lord, where have we misplaced the trust? Where have we gone wrong? And maybe willing to pay the restitution from our own pocket, not from the treasury of the donation that we have received, from our own pocket, and say, Lord, here is my restitution. I'm sorry. I've done wrong. This is wrong. I say churches and Christian organizations in particular because, unfortunately, they are not free of corruption, because they are not free from greed and wickedness and sinful activities. In fact, just 3 days ago, I made a discovery of a Christian agency who are supposed to identify a good Christian organization with a good project and then recommend them to the donor agencies. And there are a team of people engaged throughout India, but in this team, there are few who are like wolves in the clothed sheeps. They negotiate a personal benefit with the conflict of interest. They favor those who will share the benefit of the projects. I was talking to a person yesterday and asked him, how do you know about me so much? He answered, I was privileged to read your project, sir, which was given to me as a sample to follow. Well, I realized that actually that project I submitted several years ago and never went through because there were many objections. And so I now realize that they collect the well-written project only to decline and then give them to those who can benefit them in return. Why? God should not stop FCRA registration of such Christian organizations, which are infested with dishonest people. They just deserve it. This is the context of Psalm 91. David, who sinned against God, faced the consequences of his own sin and then pleads for the mercies of God. God had mercies on him and made 4 assertions. So the psalm that is read to us in Psalm 91, verse 1 to 2, the first assertion is, the Lord is a trustworthy refuge. The Lord is a trustworthy refuge. Then in verse 3 to 10, there is a second assertion. The Lord shall save us from all harm. The Lord shall save us from all harm. The third assertion, which we see in verse 11 to 13, the Lord shall provide divine protection. The Lord shall provide divine protection. And the last fourth assertion is, the Lord shall give us salvation of satisfaction, verse 14 to 16. It's a different kind of salvation. It's a salvation of satisfaction. Let us consider the first assertion. The Lord is a trustworthy refuge. It is written in verse 1 and 2 that whoever dwells in the shelter of the Most High will rest in the shadow of the Almighty. I will say of the Lord, He is my refuge and my fortress, my God, in whom I trust. Whoever dwells in the shelter, whoever, no matter he comes from where, whichever background, whether he's a Greek or Hebrew, whether he's from any religion, whether he's a sinner, saved sinner or unsaved sinner, whether he's a male or female, rich or poor, whoever dwells. It's inclusive. It's not a God of Israel or Yahweh is not a family God. It's not a religious God. It's not a cultic God. It's a God of cosmos. And he invites, say, whoever. Shelter means living under his dominion, under his rule, abiding with the kingdom's rule. You know, a kingdom has a king and a king has edict, rule. And one has to obey that rule and one has to trust in his power and his goodness. He will rest in the shadow of the Almighty. His shadow is like a fortress. You know, if our 1 feet is in another kingdom and 1 feet is this, then perhaps somewhere we are not dwelling in that kingdom fully. Fortress is a powerful imagery for safety and security in the ancient Israel. You know, if you have visited Red Fort or Agra Fort or Golconda Fort, you can understand Gwalior Fort, you can understand which are built impenetrably strong and high with stones, mortar and bricks, may give us the idea of how those who lived inside it felt protected and secure. The second assertion is, the Lord shall save us from all harm. You know, and it goes on listing fowlers snared, traps set by your enemies, deadly pandemic diseases, no matter whether it is a bacteria or virus or whatever microbes, all deadly pandemic diseases, terror of the night, darkness, domain of the evil one, and arrows that flies in the daytime, even at the time when you can visibly see your enemies, but arrow can come towards you. But God is able to protect you, defend you, and safeguard you. Even when there is a possibility of high mortality, all these chart that I showed, doesn't matter. God is able to protect us. Possibilities are great, yes. Chances of getting infected is yes. Chances of mortality may be high. So what? Our God is able to save us. On the other hand, you will see with your own eyes the punishment of the wicked. Not only you're saved, but those who are against you, you will be able to see. God will vindicate you, and you will be able to see your wicked being punished in front of. I have that privilege of saying, God is able to avenge. If you are insulted, you are humiliated, you have been, hurt or harmed, don't worry. God is able to take care. All that, He is able to take care of that. Conditions, if you make the most high your dwelling, all that, remember, the condition continues. If you make the most high your dwelling. The third result is, third assertion is in verse 11:30, the Lord shall provide divine protection. He will command His angels, messengers, agents, helper, comforter, counselor. I have experienced, and I'm sure you might have experienced, how many times God surprises us by sending on our way people whom perhaps we never expected. We are looking up to the hills, but then He brings help from some other corners, and some unknown people whom we have never met, they come in your life and they provide help. He will command His angels, messenger, agents, helper, and He will lift you up. A time will come when you will tread upon lion and cobra, but God will shield you, make your body immune system so strong. You don't have to, this morning, my wife was saying, I'm trying to prepare a kadha, bitter, which will increase our immunity. And I was just having fun with her. I hope by drinking that we will survive. Sometimes we think if we have this or that will help, but we have that assurance that God is able to build your immunity stronger than any medicine can do that. What is the reason? Because He loves you and me. Because you and I, we acknowledge His name. We carry His name. We are His family. We are His children. And that's why He makes sure that He protects us. The fourth and the final one, the Lord shall give us salvation of satisfaction. In verse 14 to 16. The Lord will answer all our call. He will be with us in our trouble. He will deliver him, and He will honor us. He will give us long life with satisfaction. He will give us the privilege to experience salvation here and hereafter. And in doing so, as we experience, we will enjoy His presence, and His joy and His satisfaction will abide in us. Now, this psalm is recorded for us as an invitation to all in our generations to put our trust in the Almighty God. It is an invitation to all the agnostics. It is an invitation to atheists. It is an invitation to religious people who are sometimes, they are lost in the rituals of religions. It's an invitation to Christians who have made Christian faith only an avenue of human drama sometimes, but they still depend on their money or strength or sometimes the numbers. It's an invitation for them also to introspect and put their faith and trust in Yahweh, in God alone. It is an invitation to the born-again believing Christians who are somehow lately grown cold. They need to also come and put their faith and trust, and they should also join. It is whoever dwells in his shelter, lives under his dominion, and being ruled under his kingdom. He who dwells in the shelter of the Most High will rest in the shadow of the Almighty. My dear brothers and sisters, as we continue to face this crisis and difficult situation in and around, and more perhaps yet to come, we will again and again ask to put our faith and trust in him, and he is able to do so. May God help us. May God enable us to put our faith in him. Amen. Bless you.